class. Homework 9 deals with absolute value. It's important to not only know what absolute value is, but the proper order in which to complete a problem involving absolute value in steps. So you want to be able to explain your work as well as find a final answer. Absolute value are these vertical bars around a number. What absolute value represents is a measurement of how far away from zero a number is. It's more of a measurement of distance. So the absolute value is going to give a positive number. 5 is 5 steps away from 0, so the absolute value of 5 is 5. Negative 7 is 7 steps away from 0, so the absolute value of negative 7 is 7. The absolute value of a number is always going to be non-negative, so it's not going to be negative because we're going to say the distance from. So simple examples where we have just one number, it really is just that number positive. So the absolute value of positive 2 is 2. It's not that we're changing the sign, we're giving it in terms of a distance, so it's positive. And the absolute value of negative 3 is 3. What's important is what order do we do things when there are bars in a problem. And so one of the things you should know is while the absolute value of a given number is positive, in a bigger, larger expression, you may or may not get a positive final answer. We're going to talk more about order of operations when we get to homework 10 in general. But in this case, you want to focus on working from the inside out. That should be what you have in mind. So first, we're going to do this math here. 3 minus 4 is negative 1. And then we'll do this here. 7 minus 9 is negative 2. And there was a negative sign before, so there's still a negative sign now. So that's the first step, working on the inside first. Now that we have just a number inside the bars, we can take the absolute value. The absolute value of negative 1 is 1. The absolute value of negative 2 is 2. And that negative sign, that subtraction sign, is still a subtraction sign. At this point, all of the absolute value bars are gone, and we're just going to do the math. 1 minus 2 is negative 1. So here we have a whole bunch of examples involving 3 and 5, and we're going to see sometimes we get different answers. The 3 minus 5 is on the inside, so I'll do that first, and I get negative 2. And then the absolute value of negative 2 is 2. Double negative, minus minus is really a plus. So remember, I like to rewrite these so I don't get confused by the double negative. 3 plus 5 is 8. And the absolute value of positive 8 is still 8. Here, in this problem, the absolute value bars are around the individual numbers. They're not around the whole expression. So I take the absolute value of 3 and get 3, the absolute value of negative 5 and get 5, and then the subtraction sign that's between them is still a subtraction sign between them. And 3 minus 5 is negative 2. This last one looks awful lot like the third one, but with big giant second set of bars on the outside. So this looks like these outer bars are still there. We do the absolute value of 3, the absolute value of negative 5. We still have a subtraction sign. Just like above, 3 minus 5 is negative 2, but that last outside set of bars make our final answer positive. So as you can see, we have the numbers 3 and 5 mixed up in a bunch of different ways, and we get a bunch of different answers. So it really is important that you break it down and do it in steps. Here's another example. We're going to do the inside of the absolute value. Do the math inside the absolute value. 4 minus 7 is negative 3. The absolute value of 5 is 5, and 3 is 3, and 5 minus 3 is 2. So that's our final answer. Here we do 2 minus 3, which is negative 1. And 4 minus 5, which is negative 1. We work on the inside. The absolute value of negative 1 is 1. The absolute value of -1 is 1. 1 squared, remember, is 1 times 1. That's still just 1. And 1 plus 1 is 2. If you have any other questions about absolute value, let me know. We will see absolute value bars and exponents in the final lesson on order of operations as well.